Welcome back. Ichiro Suzuki became the 5th player in the MLB history to win 10 consecutive Gold Gloves as the American League winners were announced on Tuesday. Ichiro joins Roberto Clemente, Willie Mays, Andrew Jones, and Ken Griffey Jr. as the only players to accomplish the feat. Other recipients of the Gold Gloves for the American League include first baseman Mark Teixeira, second baseman Robinson Cano, and shortstop Derek Jeter of the New York Yankees. Also included was third baseman Evan Longoria and outfielder Carl Crawford from the Tampa Bay Rays, catcher Joe Mauer from Minnesota, pitcher Mark Burley from Chicago, and outfielder Franklin Gutierrez from Seattle.
And Cliff Lee is not going anywhere soon. Lee's agent, Derek Brownnecker, said that Lee's free agency is in its infancy and the former Cy Young winner will not be making a decision anytime soon regarding where he will be signing. The New York Yankees have made it known they would like to reunite Lee with his former teammate and good friend, CeCe Sabathia, at the top of their rotation. The Texas Rangers, who acquired Lee at the July trade deadline, are another favorite to sign the lefty after he helped them to their first World Series in franchise history in 2010. Other possible destinations for Lee could be the other New York team, the Mets, the Angels, the Cubs, and possibly the Washington Nationals, who all have legitimate interest in the first-time free agent. Lee was 12-9 with a 3.18 ERA and 185 strikeouts in 212.1 innings between Seattle and Texas this past season.
The new college football rankings are out this week, and more jostling at the top for TCU. After a 40-point routing of then number 5 Utah, TCU jumped Boise State in their rankings up to number 3. Oregon stayed at number 1 in all of the polls after a 53-16 victory over Washington. Auburn, led by Heisman hopeful Cameron Newton, stayed at number 2 in the polls after handily defeating Chattanooga by 38. Boise State dropped to number 4 in the polls despite beating Hawaii 42-7. It is the second time this season Boise has been dropped in the rankings despite remaining undefeated. Rounding out the top 5 is LSU, who narrowly defeated former number 1 ranked Alabama 24-21 in a thriller.
Penn State head coach Joe Paterno has done it. Paterno became the first major college coach in NCAA history to reach 400-win plateau this weekend with the Nittany Lions' 35-21 win over Northwestern in Happy Valley on Saturday. Quarterback Matt McGloin threw 4 touchdowns, and the defense shut out Northwestern in the second half to help get the 83-year-old Paterno the win. Paterno has been the head coach of Penn State since the 1966 season. Only 2 other coaches have hit 400 wins in college football, both of them at lower division colleges. And in college basketball, a number of top 25 ranked teams played this week, facing off in both exhibition and non-conference games. Among those included number 25 ranked Tennessee taking on Division II opponent, the University of Indianapolis. Indianapolis stunned the SEC powerhouse Volunteers in shocking fashion, beating them 79-64. As punishment, Tennessee head coach Bruce Pearl had his players return to the film room at 5:30 a.m. the next morning to critique their poor performance against their Division II opponent. Tennessee opens their 2010-2011 season Friday night against Chattanooga at the Thompson-Boling Arena.
Former St. Joseph's and Orlando Magic guard Jameer Nelson will be hitting a speed bump this week after spraining his ankle against the Nets last Friday. Chris Duhon and Jason Williams will take turns filling in at point guard for the Magic. Orlando did receive a bit of good news as it learned forward Vince Carter is scheduled to be back against Atlanta after he was on the receiving end of a hard hit in Charlotte last week.
And Eric Spoelstra may have been the successful coach over the summer, acquiring All-Stars LeBron James and Chris Bosh to join the Miami Heat, but he may have outdone himself this time. Spoelstra has been in talks with boxing phenom Manny Pacquiao to run clinics in the Philippines for those looking for higher athletics in not just basketball, but boxing as well. The clinics will be held even in the hometown of Pacquiao in Kibawe, Bukidnon. Pacquiao appears interested in the idea of the clinics, and they are planning to run them in the summer of 2011.
The Boston Bruins are receiving both good and bad news regarding 3 top players. David Krejci suffered a moderate concussion on Saturday in a game against the St. Louis Blues. He's expected to miss a week and will undergo a series of tests later in the week. Mark Savard, who has been out due to post-concussion syndrome, and Marco Sturm, out with a knee injury, are improving significantly. Neither player has played yet, but could return to the Bruins lineup in the near future. Sturm could return in early December, while Savard is making great progress with no lingering side effects.
All right, and now we welcome in UFR's in-house hockey analyst, Greg Hall, to the desk to talk about the first month or so that was in the NHL season. So, Greg, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me on, James.
All right, we're going to start in the East right now. The three teams at the top of the rankings. Number 1, you have the Washington Capitals. Number 2, you have the Philadelphia Flyers, and number 3, you have the Montreal Canadiens. Talk about these three teams and how different they are.
Well, the Washington Capitals were clearly the favorite coming into the season to win the Eastern Conference. They have the most powerful offense. Their problem, defense, and goaltending. Coming into the season, Semyon Varlamov, their number 1 goaltender, has been kind of a question mark, being injured pretty much all last season. Coming in this season, a little bit of a question mark. 22-year-old rookie Michael Neuvirth, stepping up beautifully in his place, has become the starting staple as a Washington goaltender, so that issue's been solved. The Flyers, off their surprising cup run last year, have been phenomenal this whole season. They just rode off 6 straight, losing in overtime to the Capitals this past week, and the Canadiens coming out of nowhere with their strong play of Carey Price, who everybody was writing off as early as last season, now coming back and being the starting goaltender for this team, doing a great job without Jaroslav Halak.
And you mentioned strong goaltending. All three of them have young goaltenders that they're all riding on great hot streaks right now.
Yeah, obviously the Philadelphia Flyers with Sergei Bobrovsky, the 22-year-old Russian phenom right now, coming in almost breaking the Flyers' record for rookie consecutive wins with 7. He stopped it with 6 with an overtime loss to the Capitals, but Sergei Bobrovsky has been phenomenal this year for the Flyers, to go along with what I said earlier with Carey Price and Michael Neuvirth. Goaltending has been a real staple in the Eastern Conference this year so far.
Now, Greg, moving on to the Western Conference, and in the Central Division, we have the St. Louis Blues leading that division by a point over the Los Angeles Kings. A little bit of a surprise.
Well, it's a surprise if you're a casual hockey fan. A hardcore hockey fan would see last year the Blues had the talent. The Blues just had all the injuries. This year, coming into the season, they traded for Jaroslav Halak from Montreal. He's been phenomenal this year with the goals against under 2, with back-to-back shutouts. I believe 3 shutouts already on the season. The Blues' goaltending and defense has been phenomenal, even with their anemic offense. The Los Angeles Kings have come out of nowhere after last year's a little bit disappointing season to do what they're supposed to do. They're in first place in their division in the Pacific as well. It's the San Jose Sharks after losing to Bakov and bringing Antti Niemi and Antti Niemimäki, who are struggling. The Phoenix Coyotes struggling as well. But the Kings doing their thing with Jonathan Quick. Really, it's all been about all goaltending. Jonathan Quick, Halak, and even in the other division in the Western Conference, you have the Chicago Blackhawks and the Detroit Red Wings and and the Nashville Predators, who haven't really been doing anything out there in the Central. Chicago's in 3rd place in that division. They've played the most games in hockey.
Absolutely. All right, well, quickly, Greg, before we have to let you go. Early season MVP candidates, it looks like 2 right now. Steven Stamkos from the Tampa Bay Lightning, the 3rd-year center there, and Sidney Crosby, the all-star center for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Of the 2 of them right now, who would you say is going to have the better season, and who would you say is going to be your MVP?
Well, they've first number 1 overall picks right now with 24 points and a dynamic goal-scoring touch. You have to give it to Steven Stamkos of the Tampa Bay Lightning.
And real quick, who is your Vezina winner?
Vezina winner right now is Jaroslav Halak.
I would have to agree.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Greg. We'll try and get you on sometime soon.
Thanks for having me.
Talk some more hockey.
Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot, Greg. All right, up next, we go over the weekend that was in the NFL. Stay tuned.